Good morning, church, and welcome back to our series on the book of Ruth. Today I'm here with Mattea McGee, and I know a little bit about her story and about some of the things that she's gone through in her life. And I asked her to come in and just kind of share some of those things with you this morning. So, Mattea, I'm going to hand it off to you. What famine or what drought have you gone through in your life?
Yeah, so whenever I think of like the famine I've gone through in my life, the biggest one happened with my dad. When I was 4, he was diagnosed with ALS. And so because I was so young, my parents chose not to tell us right away, just because how do you grapple with that at 4 years old?
Yeah.
And 2 years old. My brother was 2.
Wow.
And whenever he got diagnosed, they prayed for healing, and if healing wasn't possible, for more time. And we got a lot more time. Me and my brother were really lucky. We got to grow up with our dad.
Yeah.
But it was definitely a struggle, and I didn't find out until middle school that it was like a terminal illness and how serious it actually was.
Yeah.
And I still thought like healing's still possible and maybe it can happen, and as we should and as we do. But when I was in high school, it was starting to get a lot worse, and I was already grappling with my faith, as all high schoolers do.
Absolutely.
And alongside of this, why do bad things happen to good people?
Yeah.
So I'm struggling with this, and I just got into a really like hopeless place because I didn't know, I kind of didn't have a hope for life. I had a hope for heaven one day, and I just kind of grappled with that life on earth is hard and it's a struggle, and we kind of just have to get through it, and then we have heaven one day.
Wow.
And we do have heaven one day, but God is working through us in this life. And it wasn't until I was about 17 and I went to a summer camp, and the theme was on hope. And the theme verse was 1 Peter 1, verses 3 through 9, and it talks about that gold is purified by fire, and our faith is worth so much more than that. So why would our faith not be purified just as severely? And then on top of that, like, we're being created into this artwork, into this beautiful story. That takes chiseling, that takes some editing, that takes all of those things, and God's forming us into these beautiful things. So it's gonna take hard times to form into that beautiful creation and to be empathetic and loving.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, your dad getting diagnosed with that at 4 years old, and you're living your entire life into high school and into your adult life with everyone praying for healing, and that answer not being answered the way that everyone's praying. That I mean, that would impact my faith of, man, God, what are you up to? What are you doing?
Yeah. Well, and even there's it was difficult, and it gets to a point where it's like, okay, it's kind of obvious that healing isn't what God is hoping for in this situation, and there's a lot bigger of a story happening.
Wow.
In that he's not being healed, and that's not how it's going to end up.
Yeah, I like that phrase. There's a bigger story happening that maybe we don't see and don't understand, but there's something bigger happening with his life. Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, how did your parents react to all this? I mean, what was that like?
Yeah, I mean, it was really hard. My parents were high school sweethearts and had been with each other since my mom was 14 and my dad was 16.
Oh, wow.
And so it was really difficult. And they obviously went through like a depression and a sadness and a grieving. But my mom talks about you had to grieve every loss. And so with ALS, you're gradually losing your muscles, your ability to move. And so you grieve every new loss. And so whenever, one of the first things to go was my dad's hands. And so he couldn't sign. And so he had to get like a special pen, and he'd do his signature that way. But then he lost that ability, and he had to move to using a walker. And he had to then go to a wheelchair. And eventually he had to stop preaching when I was in 7th grade. And so with that loss comes a huge calling that God's put on his life, and grieving that loss as well.
Yeah, just that the continually grieving each new loss.
Mm-hmm.
I've never thought about that before in people's stories, but yeah, I know that there's people in our church right now that are dealing with a lot of those things, and man, my heart, I just have never thought about you have to grieve every
Mm-hmm.
loss of something. Well, with that being said, I mean, what would you say to people that are going through a drought or a famine season right now?
I think your relationship with God is the most important thing in your life, and it's how you're going to get through it.
Right.
I talked about how whenever I was in this like really hopeless state, I was too afraid to go to God with my anger and my sadness, and I was afraid that like He couldn't handle it, or that He would be disappointed in me for um, for going to Him that way. And He wants you to just come as you are and come with your feelings, right? Jesus wept when Lazarus died with
Yeah.
Mary and Martha, and He's weeping with you in these losses. He's with you on them. And so go to God as you are and be angry, be sad, be joyful if that's where you're at.
Yeah.
But also don't lose hope for the life that He has for you. He has a story that He's wanting you to join in alongside of Him. And He has this artwork that He's creating in you. You're a masterpiece that He's creating. And when you don't lose hope and you join in on that with Him, it creates this beautiful life, and you're able to walk through life with a joy that you're getting to collaborate with God on this thing.
Yeah, I know that I was able to be at one of your dad's last sermons. I was in the audience at that, and just what I love about his life is he lives such a good life, and he is such a wonderful masterpiece of God that his life has outlived him. That he lives in you, he lives in your brother, he lives in everyone who knew him at the Leander Church of Christ, and he lives in me. Just that story of hope in the midst of difficult times is just so beautiful. So thank you so much for sharing that and opening up and sharing that story with us this morning. As we continue on through the book of Ruth, I want you to know that yes, chapter 1 is pretty depressing, but at the end of chapter 1, there is that ray of hope that we're going to be talking about as the book continues on. Again, if you need anything, we have our mental health wall out in the foyer. We have our elders, we have our prayer team, our cares team, we have the different ministers on staff. Whatever we can do to pray for you and help you during a difficult time, please let us know. Be blessed.